Ding ding. Well, that was interesting. Didn't quite turn the tips around on GME there with that pop, but almost. A little bit of a bounce. And back over Gamma Max into close. And remember, closing above Gamma Max is pretty rare for GME. So that could be a bullish signal, and this might be like the dead cat bounce, right? Something like that. Definitely possible. Remember, there's more options open on the chain now, so if vol gets out of hand, it'll have to get way more out of hand than it did the first time around, which it could, given that it would be less of a surprise this time. But I mean, don't count on it getting like a higher high or anything. Definitely an interesting end of day though, and if that is the culmination of the if that is due to the culmination of the share offering, it could be bullish. Like I said, if they need to use that liquidity to pad their exposures, that could be a good thing. Hear me out. NFTs. Oh Jesus Christ. TRS them. Gross. Upstart had a little bounce earlier today, failed into the end of day. Fubo's still finding plenty of buyers in the 130 to 120 range, despite being shorted. Stable as I gotta give it that. Tup got a little bounce, but stayed below 2 into close, which I was hoping it wouldn't do, but still higher day over day, right? So some T plus 2 exposure there tomorrow. Might get something off of that, although it's looking moderately liquid. Beyond's not doing anything interesting, at least for the time being. GoEV looks boring still. BNED did not hold 2967, which I don't like. Yeah, it closed at 28.98. Not the most ideal bottom, but it did bounce. So, if our support is here, we may get more consolidation on it, but tomorrow's T plus 2 for that as well. Yeah, that's about it for the memes. But maybe some exciting stuff there on GME. RSP down on the day. IWM didn't perform that well either, at least not compared to NQ. Mostly tech driving the upside move in the market today, with everything else pretty much failing. ES closed up 11 points, but pretty much flat on the day, right? Nine points up. It's not very impressive move given the positioning. And another failure here at the top today and a lower high may mean that we see a continuation tomorrow and Wednesday to the downside. So far right on track with my projection from yesterday. I wish it were easier to make money off of. But ES failing the 53, 33, 75 level into close, putting us back into the neutral range, but not a confirmed failure from this upside test. We still need to really see a drop back below 53.23, and ideally a move back to the trend or this lower trend at 5300 to really confirm that this is a double top. I would like to see a break of 5300, but definitely one step closer. Just very well supported, unfortunately. Not bullish, but just really well supported. Commodities just ripped today for the second gap up in a row, up 120 BPS on the day. This is the Bloomberg Commodity Index futures. That's a big move, big breakout. Starting to move back to like August, September 23 highs, where price action was ultimately defeated at that 108 level a couple times in Feb of 23 and April of 23. But a breakout higher than that could be very compelling for a larger commodities cycle, which is bad for risk assets. So keep an eye on that. Yields turning back up after hitting their low last week on Thursday seems to be dragging the dollar up with it just a bit. I'd like to see the dollar get back above that 105 level. But if yields keep cranking up higher like this, they've probably got a pretty good shot. I know we have like a little bit of international data this week. It's all broken up, and some of it's just really not that important. But I think tonight we have the FDI out of China, which might have some impact. Direct foreign investment in China has been dropping precipitously. I highly doubt we're going to see a tick up there, but we might. Oh wait, no, that's tomorrow night. Sorry, that's tomorrow night. We have a Bostic speech at 7 p.m. He's probably not going to say anything different than he said earlier today. My bad. German PPI at 2 a.m., which is expected to continue to rise. They're in a deflationary environment on their producer pricing side, and it's projected to be rising a little bit faster. That's actually good for Germany. Probably not great for the euro. Definitely bad for the euro if we see even more deflation there. Then we have EU current account. That doesn't matter. Oh, EU balance of trade could be kind of important for the euro dollar pair. There's a 20-year gilt auction. That might have some effect on the sterling. 5-year German bond auction. We have Red Book in the morning. And then a bunch of Fed speakers, 4 Fed speakers before market open. 43-day bill auction tomorrow, so that's not a very big deal. And tomorrow night we have Japanese balance of trade, exports, machinery orders, and a 40-year JGB auction, and then the Chinese FDI, which is possibly important. So tomorrow night's going to be crazy for FX markets. The FDI, and then you have Great British inflation at 2 a.m. Then British PPI, Lagarde is speaking, 5-year gilt auction, 10-year bond, then a 3 and 6 month EU auctions. So everything in EU and Britain is pointing to rate cuts sooner rather than later, and that divergence is going to be strong for the dollar. So yeah, there's definitely some things here that could move the dollar over the next couple of days. It'll be pretty interesting, especially given that it's already kind of close to pressuring 105 again. And that might see the yen, tomorrow night's data might see the yen or USD JPY move up to like the 157, 158 range on the back of that inflation report, especially if inflation isn't meeting the projections from the BOJ, which were already higher than the current estimates. Core 1 month started to turn around a little bit today, although the move isn't very dramatic and could just be, some profit taking on shorter dated short vol positioning. But the core 3 month has also flatlined, and the combination of them in tandem might point to a little bit of a breakdown in the dispersion into the middle of this week, and we may just see some risk off going into the FOMC minutes. So, and all that international data, because that kind of stuff can tighten financial conditions again, and if they're over leveraged on margin going into that, it would be really bearish. And it'll put a lot of pressure on those positions. So a little bit of risk off going into that, probably not unusual. I don't think this is deeply bearish or anything. It's just, I think some risk off ahead of the more impactful data into the back half of the week. We're seeing the USD JPY trade get levered up again, starting to get back near like May 14 highs. Pretty strong reversal in the amount of leverage there. And in turn, we're seeing the inversion in the yield curve tighten, and we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in the forward yield on volatility. Skew actually ticked up on Friday, which is interesting. So it means some people are carrying some tail risk hedge into the weekend, especially given how bullish last week was. That's pretty surprising. So there's still some fears that this run is unfounded. 75.14% of the S&P over its 20-day moving average, and a little bit of an uptick in positive correlation to start this week off after last week's massive vol shorting that brought us to a negative 44.63% correlation between cash VIX and VIX futures. This week we're starting off at around negative 36.27. That'll change over the course of the week, but something interesting to keep an eye on. Also, on another note, Fed funds priced out pretty much everything that they priced in on last week's inflation report. And we're back to pricing in 31.5 points of rate cuts in 2024, which still means that they're pricing like an 84 or 85% chance of a cut out in September. I think that's largely bullshit. And if the Fed does that, it's going to lead to a far worse scenario than if they just leave rates right where they are. But fund futures kind of disagreeing with that narrative that the Fed is going to cut rates sooner rather than later, at least a little bit. Which commodities are lagging that you would expect to rise? I mean, it really depends on what is driving the demand, right? There's a few things, right? It can be China's stockpiling commodities, which means they're likely to make an adversarial geopolitical move or a move on foreign trade due to the U.S. tariffs restricting the flow of their consumer goods into the U.S., right? And if that's the case, they're either going to their stockpiling of commodities is either to lower their dependence on the dollar in the future, or hedge their economy against a rapidly rising dollar in the future, or because they are going to commit some sort of act that would open them up to sanctions, and they're trying to ensure the stability of their economy through a period of those sanctions. And so it could be a number of reasons. But also, on the other side of that, you have France dealing with, civil unrest in New Caledonia, and that's been driving nickel demand. And a lot of that nickel demand can bleed over into the rest of COMEX and drive metals. So we've got to wait for the New Caledonia thing to kind of settle out, and then see if the demand for precious metals is persisting. And if it is, it could speak to something broader. But right now, I would say it's uncertain, right? There's also a lot of currency risk right now. If the Fed were to cut rates, the dollar would drop tremendously, and everyone's super overexposed to the dollar, and that's why all these central banks over the last few months have been picking up gold. Sounds like something for Pickles Picks. Don't suggest to me what to put in Pickles Picks. I'm already exposed to all the commodities that I want exposure to. If you're not, that's just because you didn't listen to me when I said I was buying them. I fucking told you guys. How long ago did I buy HBM? Like 2 years? It's not my fault you're a paper-handed bitch. You also say don't ghost your plays. I mean, but you could do research. Like, I'm going long copper. Why am I going long copper? And then you could look into the copper sector and look for copper plays that you like. That's not ghosting me. That's just looking at what I'm doing and then developing a strategy of your own. You were in the village yesterday, were you? I was. Walking with some hot model-looking chick. Anyway, I'm not smart, Girk. You overestimate us. I don't think that was overestimating anything. You're either serious about this or you're not. You want to make money? My research for VFS ended when you said YOLO. In fact, it might have been the only thing you said. That was also the extent of my research on it. It's just, I know it's got a low float and a lot of its float is locked up. So if it spins up some volume, it can run really hard. So I bought some way the fuck out of the money weeklies, and if they print, cool. BT is just going to trade between 22 and 23. I hope so. I think New Caledonia is one of the world's largest nickel mines. I want to sell more BTU CSP. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Sorry about the unexpected absence I had to take there. But I'll have Pickles Picks out tonight, and I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow morning.